Hello, welcome to AI in Action. My name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim, and we are going to talk about something just a little bit different tonight. Jim is going to spend a little bit of time talking about the difference in AI as a hospital tool versus AI as a personal health interface.
Yeah. Well, the reason I'm doing this is I'm trying to shift our podcast. I'm tired of all the theoretical chatbot kind of things with AI. I want to talk about practical applications. And we've had our nightly guest slash daughter on before where she talks about things. And I think the last time you were on, we talked about travel with AI, I
Yeah, wasn't
think.
even pregnant last time, so
Yes.
Wow, so it's been a
So it's
while.
been a while, but the whole point is that I really want to get more
Practical
practical.
applications.
What do you do with this stuff?
Right.
And part of the reason is I was reading recently that OpenAI, I think they announced it today or yesterday, they're talking about doubling the number of people in their company.
That work there?
Yes. And they had specifically said they were not going to be doing that. But I think it looks like all of them, Anthropic included, OpenAI, Google, all of them have come to the realization that the AIs that have advanced at an incredible rate. That's great,
Mhm.
but getting them in where people can use them
A
has
little
been a
more
lot harder than
difficult.
they thought. So
Yeah.
it basically sounds like they're going to hire a bunch of apps engineers, which is what I used to do. When I worked for Pioneer, my job was to go out when Intel came out with new stuff. I would go out and introduce it to people and then help them figure out how to integrate it in. And it sounds like that's kind of what they're going to be doing.
Which is really great for someone who has some attention problems because it's like a new thing every
I
day.
loved it. That was my favorite job I ever had. I keep telling Rachel it's a job she should have too, because
I would like to point out real quick, it's also another indicator about the job reskilling that we're talking about. I
yep,
mean, because if you are, I mean, Rachel, you have a CS degree. And one of the things as a coder that people are always afraid of is that AI is coming and taking these lower level coding type positions. And it sounds like if they're going to be doubling the size of their company and a lot of the people that they're going to be hiring are going to be like application engineers, that would be a great position for someone who has a computer science background.
and
So,
practical experience which you have. Anyway, we're
right.
not we're not trying to tell you to go
No,
apply.
I'm just saying it's another
I
way
mean,
that, they
what
say
I
that AI is
heard
going to take all these jobs away, but now they're saying they're adding jobs because of AI.
What you
sure, but
heard
what
is
I
what?
heard is that dad needs to apply, and this is actually his submitting an application for the right price.
No. No, Dad doesn't need to. So I got some headlines and I extracted from each one of these headlines a quote that I thought was relevant. So when we say personal health interface, when you start talking about using AI for personal health, we want to get into how Rachel uses hers in a minute. There's a difference between I want you to help me diagnose a rash on my arm versus I have all this complicated crap that the healthcare industry has on me and I have no idea what they're saying. I
Right.
mean, I know because I've done it. People are feeding stuff they shouldn't, which is like test results in. When you get these test results back, you have no idea what it says. So anyway, I'm going to let you read the headlines.
Okay, so OpenAI, they introduced, of course, Chat GPT Health. And this is in, of course, just openai.com. You can go to their website if you want to look at this announcement that they made. But the reason that they did it is because people have shared countless stories about how they turned to Chat GPT to help them make sense of their AI health, of their health, I should say. Um, One of the most common ways that people use ChatGPT is, and it's based on what they call de-identified
That's
analysis.
just their way of saying we're not going to look at your data. They're trying to make it sound like they're honoring your privacy,
Right.
like youngsters like Rachel
But
like to care about privacy.
230 million people globally have basically asked health and wellness questions to ChatGPT, which is what caused them to say, hey, we need a health section of ChatGPT.
Well, I mean, you do it.
I do it all the time. I mean, we were talking about it. My little sister just lost her battle with cancer. And one of the things that I did is that I did a lot of research and I used an AI a lot of times not to give me answers, but to help provide better questions for us to ask.
Right.
So the next thing is that perplexity. also launched Perplexity Health. And of course, this is the nextweb.com is where you can find this article. It was just a suite of health data connectors, which I thought was really interesting. It's like trying to get all the health data from all the different things. Like, and we'll talk about this in a second, Rachel, like your Apple Watch, your Aura Ring, your, all these different health things that you put information into. They've come up with a way to connect all that information.
They may have difficulty with that Aura Ring, which
Is not a US
because
based
it's not a US
company.
based company. So
Right.
they in the European sphere, they actually care about privacy. So
And then Google, of course, did the thing with Fitbit. They have their
they
personal
own
health
Fitbit.
coach.
Does Google own Fitbit?
Yes, they do. I
Oh,
believe
I
so.
didn't know that.
They
Yeah.
didn't.
So
They definitely did it when Fitbit first came out.
I
So
don't know, but what they've done
Well,
now is they've
Fitbit,
added medical records and sleep science. It sounds like the Fitbit is trying to get a little bit more into the Aura Ring
yes.
market with like the sleep science and the metabolic research and stuff like that. So those are all pretty significant headlines.
So I got one more for you. I got one more because I wanted to include all the big LLMs. So now we got Anthropic.
Anthropic, they were advancing Claude in healthcare and life sciences. They're basically saying they're introducing tools that are going to be helping individuals understand and navigate their personal health data. Because, I mean, it's hard to keep up with your personal health data, especially if
Especially
you
if you
move around a
Yeah, if you
lot.
change jobs
Yeah.
and you change around here, we have a monopoly, which is Scott and White.
Hmm.
So they have pretty much all of it. But if you're in a city like Rachel is, Scott and White's not the only one there. And if you change jobs, you change healthcare plans, all of a sudden your data they're supposed to do a better job of sharing your data, but they really don't.
Right.
But
So, Rachel, we had you on because we wanted to talk to you specifically as a new mom and as somebody who did, a lot of prenatal questions and everything during your pregnancy about how you used AI tools for making, um, decisions for how did you get started with it?
Sure. So I do have an Aura Ring, which they have an AI, but I wouldn't say I really use the AI because it doesn't do a ton yet besides asking questions. And the problem with using an AI for things like sleep and stuff during pregnancy and then once you have the kid is it's like, let's brainstorm ways to make you sleep better. And you're like, don't have a kid. Like, that's not a great answer. So, like that, in some ways that could even be frustrating because it's
don't
like,
have
you
a
should
kid.
Oh,
sleep
hey,
better.
actually, so
Don't have a kid.
the best
That's
way
not a good answer, by the way.
Oh, it
I
did
best
don't.
way
say
to
that.
sleep
No,
better.
that's my answer. It's like, have you thought about winding down earlier for bed? I'm like, sure I have.
Think about it all the
I
time. Just can't
Are
do it.
you gonna come watch the
Well,
kid? Yeah. But I definitely started using AI when I first got pregnant. I talked about symptoms a lot. At the time I was using ChatGPT. Even especially later in my pregnancy, I had issues with anemia. And so I ended up uploading blood work and talking like, hey, like, is this actually that big of a deal? Because the problem with being pregnant is that every single time you have a health problem, like I always joked that if I went into the hospital and I had cut off my leg, they'd be like, it's a symptom of pregnancy. And so it's actually really challenging. Like,
I don't.
should I be
I don't
concerned?
think that's a symptom. I have never been pregnant, but I don't think that's a symptom.
But
You
they
know,
want to blame it on pregnancy.
Yes.
you literally can't do anything. And so it took me a long time to realize how anemic I'd gotten because I was so fatigued. But every time you have the conversation, it's like, oh, you're pregnant. Of course you're fatigued. Of course you have pains. But in reality, like my iron had gotten so
Now,
low.
is the AI telling you that, or the doctors telling you
Well, so
that?
the doctors and just general Google was saying it. But whenever I actually got blood work and uploaded it, because it had said low, but I've always been anemic. And so it was like, no, actually, this low is not like low. This low is like low. Like all
Enough
of your
that you had to
symptoms make sense
go
with this.
get
So
like iron infusions.
yeah, so I got infusions and then it was actually because it was on the same thread. After I had her and got new blood work done, like 6 weeks or so postpartum, I could upload the new stuff and be like, okay, is this actually better? Would you still classify me as anemic? And we could compare the two. So actually,
Well,
after my 4 infusions, I was not anemic for the first time in my life.
since you talked about uploading records, our second question, because I sent you a list of questions
Mhm.
that I wanted to kind of cover cautions about the answers you get. I mean, you're a computer scientist, you're college educated, you've done data analytics, you've got a lot of background in understanding data. Not everyone does. So
Mhm.
what cautions would you throw out there? I mean, if it told you to drink a bottle of bleach, that's an obvious thing you're not going to do. But are there any subtle cautions that you would have for people that are using advice, I should say, for people that are using these tools?
I think when it comes to the answers, it's I try to think of it in a similar way as like put as much trust into it as you would like a Wikipedia or a Reddit thread because it probably learned from those things.
Yes,
So
the
it
truth.
can be great advice. Like I actually sometimes go to Reddit specifically because I want to actually hear like the pregnant woman or the mom say something themselves.
Can
But
you really nowadays though, or is that all is Reddit all AI stuff? But that's a different topic.
that is a different topic. I could go on about Reddit, but we don't have time for that. But the point
No,
being,
we don't.
like, if the AI tells me something and it makes sense, or maybe it's not super drastic, like, don't let AI sit there and tell you that you're dying because that's the same as any internet rabbit hole. Instead, you kind of take it where it's like, maybe you should explore taking XYZ or this vitamin, and then you could talk to your actual doctor about it, especially if you're pregnant and it does seem like something that's a bigger change.
I
Um,
mean, I guess theoretically, you could talk to your doctor about any of them. I mean,
Takes time to do that, though.
it does. I mean, it depends on, I guess it depends on the nature of it. But I mean, I'm assuming even certain vitamins shouldn't be taken or certain types of minerals shouldn't be taken whenever you're pregnant. So, I mean, that is to me, that is the epitome of when you have to be the most cautious. If you're a healthy, normal person that's not pregnant, that kind of thing, getting some advice that take this mineral, it's probably not going to be harmful. But when you have a baby involved, you do have to be extra cautious, which I'm assuming you,
well,
being who you are, you were cautious.
a
I
lot
want
of
to
it
say
was
something real
a
quick.
Hold on. Mom's got something
I got
going on.
something real quick.
okay.
Go for
So,
it.
a long time ago, we had a question for a doctor or we had a symptom, and we would call. I worked in a medical office for a long time. You would call, I would answer the phone, I would take down a message, I would take down your phone number. The doctor would call you back the next day. Doctor calls you back the next day, and you tell the doctor all your symptoms, and he literally sometimes would say, let me do a little research for you. Let me see if I can figure out what's going on. And then, so you're looking possibly at 2 or 3 days before you actually get a possible solution to a problem. What I see is that now you go to a online chart. Most of the time you're messaging online to a nurse or, somebody like that. So this way you already have hey, here are my symptoms. It's telling me I need to take an extra iron pill. Would this be okay for me to do? Do you think that would help? It literally helps cut down on the time that it might take to get a decent answer back from a qualified physician. Do you agree?
I Yeah, I think how I have approached it is like risk versus reward, right? Like if the baby's really fussy and AI recommends freezing a washcloth, really low risk, possibly high reward, no issues. But then,
Mhm.
like, for instance, I got the flu in January and I exclusively breastfeed. Like, this kid does not take a bottle. And so I was like, is my breastfeeding journey done? Like, do I need to throw her at my husband and not touch her for a week? And AI, talked me off the edge and did talk about like how I could still keep breastfeeding. But because the risk of her getting the flu and that being bad was like a
High
bigger
enough.
concern for me, I called
Mhm.
like the 24-hour nurse hotline. And I was like, hey, I
Mhm.
think that this is how I can handle it, but I want confirmation from you. And
Right.
so it was really a matter of like, AI is good for talking me off the edge. The AI is good for giving me tips. But when it comes down to like, how bad could it be if it's wrong? That's when you say, okay, 24 hours might be worth waiting. Then again, if your kid consumes medication, which I kind of thought mine did last night, she did not, and AI gives you the poison control hotline, like that's something you deal with right now. That's not something you wait to talk to your pediatrician. So it really just depends on
Yeah,
like
that makes sense. So
It's
your basic
logic.
caution is use some common sense
Right.
the best you can and trust but verify when you think it's you know I mean that's reasonable advice. I mean AI is gotten incredibly powerful, incredibly good, but humans can make mistakes too. I think Rachel, you have a minor in like medical administration. Didn't you say something about the cost and the number of medical problems that are caused by misdiagnosis? And you told me that statistic once, but I can't remember what it was.
Yeah, I think so. One, the reason the US's health insurance is so expensive is because, like, and do not quote these numbers. I've been out of college for a long time, but like 30% of our cost of healthcare is just administrative cost. And then on top of that, in like the top 5 ways that people die in the US is like preventable medical problems.
Mhm.
And so that would make you think like, oh, don't trust your doctor. But in reality, what that means is that by being a responsible consumer of information, like with AI, you are now kind of helping your doctor, like you're partnering
Mhm.
with their expertise and bringing your own level.
Mhm.
But you also only trust AI as much as you would trust like an acquaintance. Like trust your mother more.
Right.
Well, I mean, the good news about the doctor part of it is that doctors have gotten better with technology. I remember years ago when I was having trouble with my gallbladder, and I did a complete study of everything I ate, everything and I had charts and graphs. I built all this stuff by hand,
It was so
and
pretty.
I still have that. It was a nice data analytics story. The
Feed it into
doctor
an
not
AI.
only
Get its
the
opinion.
doctor did not appreciate it at all.
He didn't even look at
He
it.
didn't even want to look at it because for him, this was the sign. They literally put a chart note that said he's an engineer.
Mhm.
That was one of the chart notes they put in there, like it was some kind of diagnosis of my problem.
I'm sorry, but that is a diagnosis.
Anyway, moving on to the next question. Do you prefer any AI over another? We've talked a little bit lately about different AIs, and you've recently changed
Did.
mostly for political reasons from OpenAI, ChatGPT. You've started using Claude more.
Yeah.
Do
My
you
initial change was
use
Claude,
one? Huh?
but
Why? Why did you change? Like, did you actually prefer one over the other? And if so, why did you prefer
Yeah,
it?
that's the question is, do you actually get
yeah.
better answers in your opinion from one?
So yeah, as I said, to preface, like I used ChatGPT before Claude for years. A big part of it is just that it
Paid for version or free?
paid for on both.
Okay.
The small tier paid for though.
Right.
Because it felt more accessible in a lot of ways. Like Claude, I was trying to do it for normal chat stuff, and Claude at the time felt like it was just too big of an AI for my little measly questions. But then now with recently changing to Claude and having the app and using it more, one, I really like the projects. I think that so I started a thread when Ada, my daughter, was born in July, and she was like 4 or 5 months old when the thread maxed out. And ChatGPT was literally like, "The thread's too long, you gotta start a new one."
I've never
Um,
hit I've never hit an end of a thread being too long.
you've never been up with
ChatGPT,
3 AM breastfeeding, so,
I
it's
never will be. ChatGPT does have projects though.
well, I don't know. I started using Claude's projects, and it meant that I could split up like us casually talking about why is this kid not sleeping, and
Hmm.
talking about like starting food allergens, and talking about even like a separate thread that's connected but not about like postpartum for me, that's separate from her. And so it's all a
Hmm.
related project, but I kind of get to have different sections for it. So
You
that's
and I talked a little bit about that the other day. I think we both agreed on one of the things that we dislike intensely about the latest incarnations of ChatGPT, and it's the tone, um, the the sycophantic thing that it does versus Claude.
yeah.
Meaning, oh, ChatGPT has become a number one butt kisser and tells you everything it thinks you want to hear, and Claude doesn't do that as much to me. Does it? How
Not
about
as much.
you?
So yeah, no, ChatGPT and I have definitely argued, if you can say that. It makes me feel insane, like arguing with your cell phone. Like it's not a person, but I almost have to remind it. It'll be like, "You're doing so good, mama. Like, I totally understand." And I'm like, "You've never changed a diaper. You are not alive. You do not understand. Like, I know you're trying to be comforting, but it's creepy. Like, I don't want that." And I would definitely have to remind it of that periodically. And then sometimes it would go completely
So,
the opposite way, where it was like, "You're right. Don't worry. Period." You're like, "Okay, I'm not looking for you." Like, there has to be a middle ground here where and I've had the issue with Claude some, especially at getting like a little bit it really wants me to sleep. It decides when I'm asking bedtime
It's
questions.
very judgy about your health.
It is. It's like, I'm like, "Oh, you know, she's blah, 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 blah. She finally got down, yada, yada." It's like, "No need to worry. Now get some sleep." You're like, "You know what? I'll sleep when I want to sleep. Like, I don't need your thoughts on this. Thank you." But it is
It told
generally,
me before to do that. I was coding and I was getting a little argumentative as I always do. And it said, I think you need to take a break. You need to
yeah,
come
it
back in
needs
an
a break from
hour.
you, apparently.
And I think that's what it was telling me. The AIs are coming for me first, you've always told me, but they're coming for you second.
Well,
So anyway, so
generally
you do
speaking, yeah,
prefer,
Claude's tone. It's never called me mama, which I know some people like, being called mama. It's fine. But like that's something that I want my like pediatrician nurse person to call me. Like I don't want my AI to call me that. Like it just feels too creepy.
all right, I'm going to let you do the next one.
Well, I mean, we were talking about giving it information, giving it data, right?
This
And I
is
know
your question
that
too,
you and I, it is. So,
because you really have a problem
well,
with
I
this
do.
one.
I have a problem with it. Um, you and I have talked in the past about like before you conceived Ada and how much
Mhm.
information people give to these programs while they are trying to conceive. And I think, I mean, the example I always use is like if I was to sit down and talk to your grandfather about information, he wouldn't even let an auto draw happen from his bank account, right? They don't need that information. Your dad and I have auto draws happening from our bank account all the time. And
What
the
we don't
younger,
have is our insurance based on a device in our car.
right. I mean,
That's
but
he
the
used that
I
younger
will
example
let
generation
all
is
the
like,
time.
not only can you have the auto draw, you can, watch how I drive every day and then decide how much I have to pay for my insurance based on that,
Not that anybody we know would
that
do
is a
that,
separate
So,
conversation, guys.
okay.
but
So
that is a
my
privacy
question
conversation.
is, do you have reservations about the information that you are giving to an AI? Like, what are the repercussions? Do you think there might ever be repercussions? I
Which
mean,
leads to the last question.
in some
Yes.
other countries, there's like, social scores and stuff like that. So, what are your concerns about stuff like that?
Well,
And how do you address them if you do?
you mentioned specifically like when I was conceiving. Because I use my Aura ring to track my body temperature, and it's super helpful for like ovulation and stuff. And I did feel more comfortable using my Aura ring because it is a European company.
And they have
Because
actual privacy laws.
yeah, exactly. And so I think it's one of those things that, I mean, once again, it goes back to risk versus reward, but it also goes to like, the trust that we have in privacy, because it is such a private thing. Like, how to break this question down. So I guess the first thing I'll bring up, which you guys could do a whole podcast on, is I use my Aura ring tied with Natural Cycles specifically, which is a really commonly used app in the US. I know Europe has had some concerns about it, but they actually, as of like this month, have a class action lawsuit in California about potentially sharing their people's data with marketing like analysis, which isn't
Mm,
malicious, but it's like a slippery slope. And since I don't need the app right now anyways, like I got the kid, I'm good. I'm going to go ahead and just stick with my Aura ring and not use the app, like the app tie-in for now. Um, but it also, back when I did data science classes before AI was big, there was this thing that we talked about where Target like knew this woman was pregnant before she did because of like her spending habits and buying habits. And so it sent her like a pamphlet for like the baby deals at Target or something like that. So we've always kind of given up a certain level of privacy when it comes to convenience. AI is just another level. And so you have to decide, like, I'm okay, same as y'all. You're okay with things being auto pulled out, but the insurance is your line. I'm okay with it tracking my body temperature, but telling it, I don't know. I don't even know another level for that at
more
the moment.
detailed information.
Yeah,
But
like
I mean, that's the
it's
problem
just
is that when you start telling it biometric information, which is what you're doing when you give it information about your body like that, you can't pull that back. I mean, when we're talking about auto draw, if your mom and I decided tomorrow we didn't want that stuff, we can turn it off.
Yeah, we go
And
cancel
there
our
is no
account.
ramifications other than inconvenience. Once you feed people that information, and I told you we don't talk about politics a lot, But you being a young female and living in a state that has very strict reproductive rights laws, and people are pushing these things really hard, how are you as a young female feeling about the fact that all this information can build, as you said, Target knows you're
Profile.
pregnant? What if Target decides you're pregnant and then it was a false alarm and then the police show up because they thought you were pregnant and now you're not? I mean,
Well,
where
I
do
mean,
you draw the line?
it even gets
I
as
don't
deep
know.
as like, what if you are pregnant, you don't know you're pregnant, you have a miscarriage, but you find out that information from your Aura ring? Like, are you okay with the fact that it might know that information, you never were emotionally invested, and
Hmm.
now you were? Because I mean, I found out I was pregnant at 4 weeks along because I was actively tracking, which people don't find out that early, and a lot more could go wrong at that time. So I think that for me, I chose, like, I've used the Aura Ring for a long time. I trust the company, and therefore that was worth it. But, like, to be frank, Amazon has a ring. Maybe they're not selling me out to some police force in Texas for any reason. But also, I don't want Amazon to start giving me baby ads when I'm 4 weeks along and don't know I'm pregnant yet. So I
Yeah, what
kind
if
of
you
have
wanted to
to,
surprise your husband?
yeah.
And all of a sudden Alexa pops up and goes,
It's like, "Oh,
"Hey,
hey," like, that's so I kinda decided I want, even if it means that I'm not getting the latest and greatest because US companies move faster in some ways because of the fact that they can just throw things out there, I would rather be, you know, on the more cautious
you
side.
know, we can do a whole podcast on that." Privacy is a slippery slope, and this move fast and break things that the tech bros have been doing forever. I think I'm seeing, and I'm seeing it from the outside looking. I'm older, so I have a different view of privacy and what it means. But it seems to me like your generation is starting to look at privacy differently. Like for me, if I walk up to you and I snap a picture of you, in my generation, who cares? We took pictures. Your generation's going, you need to ask permission to
Mhm.
take a picture because of social media. So I think there is possibly a movement back toward a different type of privacy. And I think your generation is going to have to define it however you're comfortable defining it because you don't want to give up all your conveniences.
Yeah,
But it
and
is,
memories. I mean, for, like, the pictures on Facebook and stuff. Like, I want my daughter to be included in family memories, but also I was old enough when social media became a thing that even though all my awkward phase is documented, unfortunately, I still was cognitive-ish enough to make the decision myself. Whereas she's an infant. Like, am I really going to put her little bath time baby butt on social media? And then 16 years from now, she's like, why did you do that to me? Like, it doesn't even have to be something malicious. She just can't make the decision for herself.
Right.
yeah. So I think there's a whole discussion to be had about what does it mean in terms of giving these AI companies. A lot of people, when I have this conversation, I'm like, well, we give Google everything already anyway. Why does it matter?
But it should have mattered then
That's the point your mom makes almost every time
all
we
the
have
time.
we talk is thank you AI because we're having a conversation we should have had 25 years ago
Mhm.
in terms of what information is it okay for these companies to have and share. I mean, Meta is one of the ones they're the big sharers of everything, and they have 3 billion users. They have so many users and so much information about your life, like you said, going all the way back to your awkward phases. They have all this information, and the question is, what are they going to do with it? And I think AI gives it a whole new meaning as to what they can do with it, because now you can make different kinds of decisions that you could not make before. Machine learning was available, and Google and some of the big guys have been doing it for a long time and using that data in ways that are very similar to what generative AI does. But now it puts it in the hands of everybody.
Mhm.
So
I
now
mean,
everybody can make it.
to
Yeah.
uh to put it in kind of a funny way, but maybe a different way for people to think about it, you know, people joke about selling feet pics, right? Like, "Well, don't post your
Yes.
feet on social media when you can
I know that's
sell the
so weird.
pictures." Data is like a currency at this point, and it's just
It
becoming
is.
more expensive. So if it makes you feel better to think like my data has like monetary
Value.
value, like there's value to it, and that helps you not just share it everywhere, then,
Mhm.
think of it that way.
Yeah,
That's a good
because
point.
the AI, I mean, even the framework the White House just put out said that even copyrighted information should be allowed to be used to train AIs. So even the copyright laws aren't protecting people and generating information. Like your mom wrote a book,
Mhm.
so they can
These are not
literally.
nonprofit companies. We got to make them work for it.
Yeah, and so now it's like you better hide your feet, put them feet inside them shoes because you might want to sell those feet pics later. Anyway,
On that note,
I wanted. Do you use different AIs to check each other? I forgot to ask that question.
Yeah, and I can kind of bring it back to, I guess, AI and parenthood, since that's the actual topic of your
Yeah, because we need to
podcast
wrap up.
from my side of things. So for most of my AI stuff for her, I don't do AI to check each other because I typically do the whole checking thing when I'm creating a piece of material. Like if like I've done it with code before, or maybe if I am like, doing my resume, like something that I'm trying to perfect to put out there, that's whenever I do the checking. But for the things that I'm doing where it's like her poop was yellow today, is that like I
Gross.
don't need to
Really?
ask like one opinion is enough. Like I already think so much about like her sleep and her growth and her bowel movements and everything else.
We are
I
aware.
don't need to make it like a multi-factor thing. Like I just need a quick answer. If it says maybe not, then I message the pediatrician. If it says you're golden, then I'm like, okay, maybe we're good. We're good. We're moving
That's
on.
almost like a bad pun.
yeah, no, let's not go there. All right. On that note, I really am going to wrap us up. So,
Good. Good thing.
Rachel, we really appreciate you talking to us tonight about the stuff that you're using artificial intelligence for. As I said, I know that I used it a lot whenever we were facing, a diagnosis with my sister just to get information. But again, it's one of those things that you trust, but you verify every single time. So, my name is Maurie. I'm here with my husband, Jim. Thank you guys so much for watching AI in Action, and we hope y'all have a marvelous rest of the week.